The world before the first emperor was a land torn by chaos and ambition. Imagine the endless plains of ancient China, shrouded in morning mist, where the cries of soldiers and the clang of bronze weapons echoed from valley to valley. The Warring States period was a time of relentless conflict, 7 great kingdoms, each ruled by cunning lords, each dreaming of uniting all under heaven. Rivers became borders, mountains became fortresses, and every sunrise brought the promise of new alliances, betrayals, and battles that would shape the fate of millions. In the western state of Qin, a child was born beneath ominous skies. His name was Ying, and from the moment of his birth, legends began to swirl around him. Some whispered that a dragon's shadow passed over the palace on the night he entered the world, a sign that destiny itself had chosen him. Others claimed that his mother had visions of immortals, and that the stars aligned in patterns unseen for centuries. Whether these were omens or inventions, one thing was certain: Ying would not be an ordinary ruler. His childhood was marked by intrigue and danger. The Qin court was a nest of vipers, where assassins lurked in the shadows and every meal could be poisoned. Young Ying learned quickly that trust was a luxury he could not afford. He watched as his father, King Xi'an, navigated the treacherous politics of the court, forging alliances with iron and gold, and crushing rivals with ruthless efficiency. The boy absorbed every lesson, every betrayal, every whispered threat. By the time he ascended the throne at just 13 years old, he was already hardened by the realities of power. But the world outside the palace was even more unforgiving. The other kingdoms, Chu, Zhao, Wei, Han, Yin, and Qi, looked upon Qin with suspicion and fear. Each had their own ambitions, their own armies, their own dreams of empire. The land was a chessboard, and every move could mean the difference between survival and annihilation. Spies moved like shadows between the courts, carrying secrets and lies. Generals plotted campaigns that would last for years, and the common people suffered beneath the weight of endless war. Ying, however, was not content to merely survive. He dreamed of something greater, a unified China, where the chaos of the Warring States would be replaced by order, law, and the will of a single ruler. He surrounded himself with brilliant strategists, ruthless generals, and advisors who understood that victory required both cunning and brutality. Among them was the legendary Li Si, a master of legalist philosophy, who believed that only strict laws and absolute authority could bring peace to the land. The campaigns of Qin were unlike anything the world had seen. Armies marched with terrifying discipline, their bronze weapons gleaming in the sun, their banners emblazoned with the black dragon of Qin. Siege engines battered city walls, chariots thundered across the plains, and rivers ran red with the blood of the fallen. The chronicles speak of entire cities razed to the ground, of populations relocated or erased, of a campaign that was as psychological as it was physical. The message was clear: resist and face annihilation, submit and become part of something greater. Yet, even as the Qin armies advanced, the threat of betrayal was ever present. Ying's court was a labyrinth of ambition and fear. Ministers plotted in secret, generals weighed their loyalty against the promise of power, and assassins struck in the dead of night. The young king responded with swift and merciless justice. Suspected traitors were executed without trial, their families exiled or destroyed. The laws of Qin were harsh, but they brought a kind of order that the land had not known in generations. As the years passed, the dream of unification began to take shape. One by one, the rival kingdoms fell. The armies of Chu were crushed in a series of brutal campaigns. The walls of Zhao were breached after a siege that lasted months. The rulers of Han and Wei surrendered in the face of overwhelming force. Each victory was marked by grand ceremonies, where the conquered were paraded before the king and the spoils of war were offered to the ancestors. The people of Qin celebrated, but beneath the surface, fear lingered. What kind of world would emerge from the ashes of the old order? Zheng, now a young man hardened by war and betrayal, began to see himself not just as a king, but as something more, a figure destined to reshape the world. He adopted new titles, new rituals, and surrounded himself with symbols of divine authority. The black dragon became his personal emblem, a sign that he ruled by mandate of heaven. He ordered the construction of roads, canals, and fortresses, binding the empire together with stone and sweat. The Great Wall, a colossal barrier against the northern tribes, began to rise, its stones laid by the hands of countless laborers. But even as he built his empire, Zheng was haunted by the specter of mortality. He had seen too many kings fall, too many dynasties crumble. The legends of his birth, the omens and prophecies, all seemed to point toward a destiny that was both glorious and tragic. In the quiet hours of the night, he would walk the palace corridors, pondering the nature of power, the price of ambition, and the possibility of escaping the fate that awaited all men. It was during these years that the seeds of his greatest obsession were planted, the quest for immortality. Stories of sages who had conquered death, of islands where the elixir of life could be found, began to circulate in the court. Alchemists and magicians arrived from distant lands, offering potions and rituals, each promising to grant the emperor eternal life. Some were charlatans, others true believers, but all fed the growing fire of Zheng's desire to defy the gods themselves. As the Qin armies prepared for their final campaigns, the emperor's mind was already turning toward the mysteries of life and death. He ordered the construction of a tomb unlike any the world had ever seen, a vast underground palace, guarded by an army of clay soldiers, filled with treasures and secrets meant to accompany him into eternity. The project would consume the labor of thousands, its true scale hidden from all but the most trusted advisors. The world was changing. The old kingdoms were gone, replaced by a new order forged in blood and ambition. Yet beneath the surface, new dangers were rising. Rebellions simmered in the provinces, conspiracies brewed in the shadows, and the emperor's own quest for immortality threatened to unravel everything he had built. The story of Qin Shi Huang was only beginning, and the greatest mysteries were yet to be revealed. The unification of China was not merely a matter of conquest. It was a transformation that rippled through every aspect of life. As the last of the rival kingdoms fell, Zheng's vision began to take shape on a scale never before imagined. The new emperor, now calling himself Qin Shi Huang, set out to erase the boundaries that had divided the land for centuries. He ordered the standardization of weights and measures, the creation of a single written script, and the construction of roads and canals that would bind the empire together. Messengers raced across the land, carrying imperial edicts that demanded obedience and promised a new era of order. But beneath the surface, the scars of war lingered. The people of the conquered kingdoms viewed the Qin with suspicion and resentment. In the villages and towns, old loyalties died hard, and rumors of rebellion simmered just out of sight. The emperor responded with an iron fist. Laws were enforced with ruthless efficiency, and punishments were swift and severe. The legalist philosophy of Li Si became the backbone of the new regime. The state was everything, the individual nothing. Dissent was crushed, and the memory of the old kingdoms was systematically erased. Yet, even as Qin Shi Huang imposed his will on the land, he was haunted by the fragility of power. He had seen how quickly empires could rise and fall, how easily the tides of fortune could turn. The emperor's paranoia grew with each passing year. He surrounded himself with loyal guards, built secret passages within his palaces, and trusted only a handful of advisors. Spies were everywhere, listening for whispers of conspiracy. The court became a place of shadows, where a careless word could mean death. It was during this time that the emperor's obsession with immortality deepened. He summoned alchemists and magicians from every corner of the empire, demanding that they unlock the secrets of eternal life. Some claimed that the answer lay in rare herbs found only on distant mountains. Others spoke of magical islands far out at sea, where mortals dwelled and the elixir of life flowed like water. Expeditions were launched, ships vanished into the mist, and the emperor waited anxiously for news that never came. Within the palace walls, the atmosphere grew ever more tense. Ministers and eunuchs jockeyed for favor, each seeking to outmaneuver the others in the emperor's eyes. Ancient texts were burned, scholars silenced, and history itself was rewritten to glorify the Qin. The emperor's word was law, and his vision of unity brooked no dissent. Yet, for all his power, Qin Shi Huang could not escape the shadow of death. Outside the capital, a project of unimaginable scale was underway. In the fields near Xi'an, thousands of laborers toiled day and night, shaping the earth into a vast underground city. The mausoleum of the first emperor was to be a world unto itself, a palace for the afterlife, guarded by an army of clay soldiers, horses, and chariots. Artisans worked in secrecy, crafting each figure with painstaking detail. No two warriors were alike. Each bore the face of a real soldier, immortalized in terracotta for all eternity. The construction of the mausoleum was shrouded in mystery. Workers were sworn to secrecy, and many would never leave the site alive. Legends spread among the laborers. Some spoke of rivers of mercury that would flow through the tomb, others of deadly traps and curses meant to protect the emperor's secrets. The project consumed vast resources, and the burden fell heavily on the people. Taxes soared, and those who could not pay were conscripted into forced labor. The emperor's quest for immortality became a source of suffering for countless families. Yet the vision was grand. The Terracotta Army was not merely a display of power. It was a statement to the gods and to history itself. Qin Shi Huang believed that his rule must endure beyond death, that his spirit would command the same authority in the afterlife as he did in the world of the living. The mausoleum was to be his eternal fortress, a place where no enemy could reach him, where the chaos of the past would be forever banished. As the years passed, the emperor's health began to decline. The very elixirs meant to grant him immortality may have hastened his end. Mercury, a key ingredient in many of the potions prescribed by his alchemists, slowly poisoned his body and mind. He became increasingly reclusive, traveling the empire in search of new remedies, never sleeping in the same palace 2 nights in a row. His fear of death grew into an obsession, and those around him lived in constant terror of his wrath. Meanwhile, unrest simmered across the empire. The harshness of Qin rule, the endless demands for labor and tribute, and the destruction of ancient traditions fueled resentment among the people. Secret societies formed in the shadows, plotting rebellion. In the provinces, local leaders whispered of restoring the old ways, of breaking free from the yoke of Qin. The emperor's spies reported these threats, and the response was always the same: swift, brutal, and uncompromising. But even the mightiest ruler cannot control fate. As Qin Shi Huang's reign entered its final years, the empire he had built began to show cracks. The cost of his ambitions weighed heavily on the land, and the seeds of future upheaval were already sown. Yet, in the heart of the empire, the mausoleum continued to grow, a silent testament to the dreams and fears of a man who sought to conquer not just the world, but death itself. the story of the first emperor was far from over. The greatest mysteries of his tomb, his army, and his quest for immortality remained hidden beneath the earth, waiting for the day when they would finally be revealed. If you listen closely, you can almost hear the whispers beneath the earth. In the darkness of the underground workshops, where the air is thick with the scent of wet clay and sweat, a young artisan wipes his brow and shapes the face of a silent soldier. He has never seen the emperor, but every day he sculpts another warrior, each with a different nose, a new scar, a secret story pressed into the terracotta. The other workers murmur that these statues are not just for show. They're guardians, meant to protect the emperor from dangers that even the living cannot see. Rumors drift through the tunnels like smoke. Some say the emperor's tomb will be filled with rivers of liquid mercury, shimmering in the torchlight, deadly to any who dare trespass. Others claim that the artisans themselves will never leave this place, that their bones will be buried alongside their creations to ensure the secrets of the mausoleum are never revealed. The foremen bark orders, but even they glance nervously at the shadows, as if expecting the spirits of the dead to rise at any moment. Above ground, the empire is restless. Caravans of supplies wend their way through mountain passes. Soldiers march along the new imperial roads, and in distant villages, the people speak in hushed tones about the emperor's madness. They say he is haunted by dreams, visions of dragons circling his tomb, of ancestors demanding justice, of a world that slips further from his grasp with every passing day. Some believe he is cursed, others that he is a god in human form, but all agree that the weight of his ambition is felt in every corner of the land. In the capital, the court is a stage for intrigue and fear. Ministers plot behind silk screens, eunuchs trade secrets for survival, and the emperor's own sons wonder if they will ever inherit more than suspicion and dread. The emperor himself is rarely seen. When he does appear, his eyes are sharp and restless, his words clipped and cold. He trusts no one, not even the shadows that follow him from room to room. Yet, the machinery of empire grinds on. New laws are carved into stone, old traditions are swept away, and the dream of unity is enforced with an iron will. The Great Wall stretches further each season, swallowing villages and forests in its path. Messengers ride day and night, carrying orders that brook no delay. The people labor, the soldiers drill, and the emperor's vision becomes reality at a cost that few can bear. But beneath the surface, something is shifting. The artisans sense it in the tremor of the earth, the way the clay cracks in their hands, the uneasy silence that falls when the overseers leave for the night. In the villages, old songs are sung in secret, and the names of the lost kingdoms are whispered like prayers. Even the soldiers, hardened by years of conquest, feel a chill when they pass the mausoleum, as if the ground itself is warning them to turn back. One night, as a storm rages above, a group of workers huddle in the darkness, sharing stories to keep their fear at bay. They speak of the emperor's endless search for immortality, of the alchemists who promise life but deliver only poison, of the ships that vanish into the mist, never to return. They wonder if the emperor truly believes he can escape death, or if he is simply running from the ghosts of his own making. In the flickering light, the faces of the terracotta warriors seem to shift and move, their eyes following the workers as they speak. It is said that each statue holds a fragment of a soul, a memory of the world above, a silent witness to the rise and fall of empires. The artisans do not know if this is true, but as the storm howls and the earth trembles, they cannot shake the feeling that they are part of something vast and unknowable, a story that will outlast them all. And so, the work continues. Day after day, night after night, the mausoleum grows, the army multiplies, and the legend of the first emperor deepens. Outside, the empire teeters on the edge of unrest, but beneath the ground, in the silent city of clay and shadow, the future is being written in secret, one sculpted face at a time. The summer heat hangs heavy over the imperial roads as the emperor's caravan winds its way through the countryside, a procession of gilded carriages, armored guards, and anxious attendants. The people who line the route bow low, but their eyes are wary, their faces drawn. Whispers ripple through the villages. The emperor is on the move again, searching for the next secret, the next promise of immortality. Some say he is fleeing a curse, others that he is chasing a dream that grows more distant with every mile. In the shadow of the mountains, the emperor's health falters. His skin is pale, his hands tremble, and his mind drifts between lucidity and fevered visions. The alchemists offer new elixirs, potions of mercury, jade, and rare herbs, but each dose seems only to deepen his suffering. At night, he is haunted by dreams of rivers running silver beneath the earth, of clay soldiers rising from the darkness, of ancestors whose faces he cannot remember. He wakes in terror, convinced that death is stalking him, closer with every sunrise. The imperial court, once a hive of ambition and intrigue, is now a place of dread. Ministers and eunuchs walk on eggshells, their conversations clipped and cautious. The emperor's sons, kept at a distance by suspicion and fear, wonder if they will ever inherit more than a legacy of unrest. Rumors of rebellion drift in from the provinces, peasants refusing to pay taxes, soldiers deserting their posts, secret societies plotting in the shadows. The empire, so recently united by force and vision, now trembles on the edge of chaos. Yet, even as the world above teeters, the work beneath the earth continues. In the vast, torchlit chambers of the mausoleum, artisans labor in silence, their hands caked with clay and sweat. The Terracotta Army grows. Archers, cavalry, generals, each more lifelike than the last. Some workers carve their own names, hidden on the soles of the statue's feet, a silent plea to be remembered. Others whisper prayers to the spirits, hoping that their souls will not be trapped in this underground city forever. The mausoleum itself is a marvel of engineering and imagination. Deep within its labyrinthine corridors, rivers of mercury are said to flow, shimmering in the darkness, a deadly moat to guard the emperor's secrets. The walls are inlaid with precious stones, the ceilings painted with constellations, the chambers filled with treasures and traps. Legends speak of mechanisms that will flood the tomb with poison gas if disturbed, of curses that will strike down any who dare to enter. No one knows for certain what lies at the heart of the tomb, only that it was built to last for eternity, a fortress against time and oblivion. As the emperor's journey nears its end, the empire begins to unravel. News of his death is kept secret at first, concealed by loyalists who fear the eruption of rebellion. His body is hidden in a cart of salted fish, transported under cover of darkness back to the capital. Ministers forge decrees in his name, executing rivals and consolidating power, but the truth cannot be hidden for long. The people sense weakness, and the fires of revolt ignite from the borders to the heartland. The dynasty that Qin Shi Huang forged with blood and iron collapses with astonishing speed. His son, manipulated by corrupt officials and paralyzed by fear, proves incapable of holding the empire together. Provinces break away, generals declare themselves kings, and the old feuds that once tore China apart flare anew. The Great Wall, the roads, the canals, all the symbols of unity, become battlegrounds in a new era of chaos. Yet, even as the empire crumbles, the legend of the first emperor only grows. The Terracotta Army remains, silent and eternal, a testament to the ambition and terror of a man who tried to defy the gods. Archaeologists in the modern age uncover the warriors one by one, their faces frozen in time, their secrets still locked beneath the earth. The mausoleum itself remains largely untouched, its core sealed by ancient engineering and the fear of what might lie within. Speculation runs wild. What technologies did the Qin possess that have been lost to history? Were the rivers of mercury real? And if so, what purpose did they serve? Did the emperor truly believe he could live forever? Or was his quest a desperate attempt to control a world he knew he could never truly command? Some researchers suggest that the tomb contains not just treasures, but records of forgotten sciences, maps of lands unknown, or even evidence of contact with otherworldly beings, echoes of the dragons and immortals that haunted the emperor's dreams. The Terracotta Army itself is a marvel of artistry and logistics. Each warrior is unique, their features modeled after real soldiers, their armor and weapons crafted with astonishing precision. Some bear scars, others smiles, a few seem to gaze into the distance, as if aware of their eternal vigil. The horses are lifelike, the chariots engineered for battle, the entire force arranged as if ready to march at a moment's notice. The scale of the project suggests not just a desire for protection in the afterlife, but a message to all who would challenge the emperor's legacy. Even in death, Qin Shi Huang remains unconquered. But the mysteries do not end with the tomb. Throughout the empire, stories persist of hidden vaults, secret societies, and lost texts that survive the emperor's purges. Some believe that descendants of the Qin court still guard these secrets, waiting for the day when China will need them once more. Others claim that the emperor's spirit wanders the land, searching for the immortality that eluded him in life, appearing in the dreams of those who dare to seek the truth. Modern science has only deepened the enigma. Tests confirm the presence of mercury in the soil around the tomb, lending credence to the ancient accounts. Remote sensing reveals vast underground chambers, yet the main burial chamber remains sealed, its contents a matter of speculation and fear. Some archaeologists argue that opening the tomb could unleash toxins or curses, while others believe it could revolutionize our understanding of ancient China. The story of Qin Shi Huang is a tale of ambition and hubris, of genius and madness, of a man who sought to bend the world to his will and, in doing so, became a legend. His legacy is written not just in stone and clay, but in the very fabric of Chinese history. A reminder that the quest for immortality is as old as civilization itself, and that the greatest mysteries are often those we dare not solve. As the centuries pass, the Terracotta Army stands guard over the silent emperor, their eyes fixed on an eternity that may never come. The mausoleum remains a forbidden city beneath the earth, its secrets waiting for the day when someone brave or foolish enough will break the seals and face whatever lies within. And so, the legend endures. The first emperor's dream of immortality may have failed, but his story lives on, inspiring awe, fear, and wonder in all who hear it. The dragons still circle in the mists of memory. The rivers of mercury still flow in the imagination, and the Terracotta Army still waits, silent and eternal, for the next chapter to begin. If you're captivated by the mysteries of ancient China and the secrets of the first emperor, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join us for the next journey into the kingdoms of mystery. What do you think lies hidden in the unopened tomb of Qin Shi Huang? Could the secrets of immortality, lost technologies, or even forgotten histories be waiting beneath the earth? Share your theories in the comments. And remember, the greatest mysteries are never truly buried. They are simply waiting for those bold enough to seek them.